Hello, everyone, and welcome to part 2 of our Mempool Masterclass series, The Importance of Gas. In this 3-part series, you're going to become an expert in the mempool, and each of these classes will build one on top of the other. And just so that you know, we're going to be sending out the slides and the recording afterwards so that you can get everything and just concentrate on the information being given to you. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of gas, which is a really awesome and fascinating topic. Please use the chat to ask any and all questions you may have. You'll see our Blocknative product manager, Emily, is ready to answer all your questions that you have. For more of the larger and more detailed questions, Emily may wait to give a more comprehensive response, and she'll do that in Discord. So be sure to join us in our Mempool Masterclass Discord channel to get all of the follow-up resources and questions. A little bit of background for you. Emily, Julio, and I work at Blocknative, where we have been working on real-time Web3 infrastructure. And we really focus on the pre-chain layer, which is often overlooked but critical, which you learned in class 1. Highly recommend going back and watching that if you are joining us for the first time today, as Julio gave a lot of really wonderful information there. Over the past 4 years, we've been collaborating with some of the best networks, wallets, protocols, and dApps to make our infrastructure really best in class. And we have a dedicated infrastructure team that allows us to have this unparalleled visibility into a comprehensive set of mempool data powering everything. And it allows you to have a digestible view of this complicated infrastructure. And all of this wouldn't have been possible without great discussions and knowledge sharing with key players. So that we hope that you really get a view into this and that this is the beginning of the journey for you. And it's the start of many fruitful conversations. And so with that, I will pass you to Julio, who will be your guide today and instructor.
Awesome. Thank you, Laurence. It's super great to see all of you back for our second course in this masterclass series. We're going to spend the next 30 minutes or so going deep into the world of gas, what it is, how it works, why it works, how to monitor it. It's going to be a bit of a crash course, so I'm going to move relatively quickly to try to cover as much as possible, but we have the amazing Emily and the amazing Laurence in the chat to answer any questions, and it will be available as a recording. So I just want to make sure that we're all starting in the same level. So we're going to quickly go over some of the basics for gas. Gas is the unit that measures the amount of computational effort required to execute specific operations on the Ethereum network. And since each Ethereum transaction requires computational resources to execute, each transaction requires a fee, right? And we know that as the gas fee. These fees help keep the network secure. So by requiring a fee for every computation that's executed on the network, this in turn prevents any bad actors from spamming the network. And that can either be through preventing accidental or potentially hostile infinite loops or other sorts of computational wastages. And then, yes, any gas fees that are not used up in a transaction are returned to the user. For example, if your transaction fails halfway, any leftover gas is just going to be returned to you. So what does gas look like in practice? A little like this. So your total transaction fee is going to equal the units of gas that are used in your transaction times whatever price you have set for set per unit for that transaction. So in a simple EOA to EOA, so externally owned account to externally owned account, that's going to be, Bob sending ETH to Alice. That's typically going to use about 21,000 units of gas. And at a high level, you just multiply that by whatever the price of gas is. In this example, I've set it to 200 Gwei, which today is a lot, but a few months ago was probably pretty average. And that's going to give you your transaction fee. So that would end up equaling about 4.2 million Gwei, or about 0.0042 ETH, right? So now we have these two terms that we just introduced, Gwei and ETH, you should all know. So gas fees are always going to be paid in ETH, but the gas price is typically denoted in Gwei, which is just a denomination of ETH. So for example, instead of saying your gas is going to cost 0.00000001 ether, which is a huge mouthful and to me doesn't really mean anything, you can say your gas is going to cost 1 Gwei, right? And the word Gwei is it actually means giga Wei, which is equal to about a billion Wei. And Wei is going to be the smallest unit of ETH. So speaking of Wei, we have a poll question. Where does the term Wei come from? Is it Vitalik's middle name? Is it named after the creator of B-Money? Is it a derivative of the phrase no way? Or does it not come from anywhere? It's a made-up word. What do you all think? Give you guys maybe 10 more seconds to answer. All right. Did we get the results, Laurence?
We did. Coming first is it does not come from anywhere with 47%. And then creator of B-Money at 27%. And then tied Vitalik's middle name and the phrase no way.
Ooh, okay. Oh, here are the results. So interesting. Well, thank you. Wei is actually named after Wei Dai, the creator of B-Money. Fun fact, if you don't know what B-Money was, it was was first revealed in 1998, I believe, definitely before 2000, by computer scientist Wei Dai. And it was intended to be an anonymous distributed electronic cash system, which should sound pretty familiar to any of you because it was actually one of the big inspirations for Satoshi when they were creating Bitcoin, and it is referenced in the Bitcoin white paper itself. B-Money was never actually officially launched though, so it was just a proposal. Okay, with that out of the way, let's talk about the past, present, and future of gas prices and how they affect the entire Web3 ecosystem. So prior to EIP 1559, the original gas model was a very simple first price auction. There was fixed block sizes with about 15 million gas limit. Those blocks didn't change. You set your gas price and the miner would pretty much just prioritize whatever the highest gas fees were. And the miners would receive all of those fees at the end of your transaction. Right, so this system was super straightforward. It was simple. You only had one variable to worry about. Should have been pretty easy, right? But there was this issue where trading bots and other systems would often go to war with each other, and they would end up escalating the gas price to win certain opportunities. And this would bid up the gas price for the entire network, not just for those that were bidding. And these were called priority gas auctions or PGAs. And you can see one of them represented right here in this graph. So we can see in this graph, the gas prices for the network are low. Then the bots go to war, the PGA happens, it tabletops, and then it sort of just kind of declines. And if you're just a regular user doing what regular users do on your favorite, DeFi protocol, or maybe you're trying to buy your Dream NFT, you end up suffering as a result of these spikes, right? If you're a Dapper wallet during this time and you're not able to provide accurate gas estimates during any of these PGAs, your users are going to suffer as a result of these. So this was a big problem with the original first price auction FPA model, where it was super difficult to figure out what you needed to do in order to get to your transaction into the next block after these really big surges. And it made the network hard to use, and people would often complain about gas prices. And so as a result, a lot of research went into what's known as EIP 1559, and it significantly changed the nature of the gas market on Ethereum. It was launched as part of the London hard fork in August of 2021, and we at Blocknative were actually really involved with this. So we were one of the first, if not the first, to support it at the London hard fork, and it introduced a whole series of changes that really really affect the way that the network works. So after the London hard fork, we now had dynamic block sizing. So blocks could actually change depending on demand. Then there's 3 new variables that go into determining gas price. So now it's, you have to think about the base fee, the priority fee, and what is known as the priority fee was also known as the miner's tip at the time, and the max fee, which is super disorienting to new users, especially if you were used to the old model. So the base fee is the minimum fee for inclusion for the block, and it's set by the network. And it's kind of this major change because prior to EIP 1559, the network itself was not aware of what its gas fee was. It was totally just set externally by the miners, and users just kind of had to figure out what they wanted to set their price to be included. And so the network actually starts to become self-aware now, and it's really sort of interesting and has all of these really interesting implications that we're going to see. Then you also have the priority fee, right? That miner tip. And that is set completely by the user. The users get to choose what they want to pay for this. So the base fee is going to be burned. The network, so the network's going to charge the base fee for your transaction, and then it goes away, right? Completely disappears. Nobody can use it. And that exerts deflationary pressure into the circulation of ETH, which should, in theory, increase price as network activity increases. And then the priority fee, right after the London hard fork, right, we were still under proof of work. So this priority fee was sent directly to the miners. So we have these 2 variables: base fee set by the network, and then priority fees, which are set by the users. And the base fee gets burned, and the priority fee goes to the miners. Right? It's a much more complicated system than before. So within all this complication, here's what you really need to know. Base fee must be paid. It doesn't matter how your transaction gets into the block. You could be a miner and you just shove it in there, or maybe you're going through private networks. Does not matter. You still have to pay your base fee. And then the base fee also has this algorithm, right? And this algorithm is going to target 50% full blocks. So the variable block sizes, they can go anywhere from 0 to 30 million gas in this new model. But if a block is 100% full, the base fee will increase by a maximum in the next block by 12.5%. So block to block, the most that a base fee can increase is going to be 12.5%. If that block is 100% full, right, base fee goes up 12.5%. Similarly, the most the base fee can be reduced in between blocks is negative 12.5%. And that is only if you have a completely 0% full block, right? Empty blocks, which are now a thing. You would not have had those in the old system. And when the base fee goes, when the base fee kind of goes out of control, right? There's no demand, gas is way too high, nobody's willing to pay for it. That's typically when you're going to see the base fee go down by 12.5%, because you're going to have those 0% full blocks. And remember, those are the maximum ups and downs, right? If block is over 50%, but not 100, then you'll see base fee go up, but not as high as 12.5%. Same is true for going down. So when you set your priority fee, you will always be charged that. And under proof of work, it was guaranteed to go to the miners. Obviously, now it goes to validators. And it's technically an optional payment, but generally it needs to be around 1.5 or 2Y if there's not really any competition for your transaction to actually be competitive. And then there's this thing called the max fee, right? So you set this max fee, but you're almost never charged your max fee. And that can be super disorienting for users because you put this number in and your wallet says, or the max fee is supposed to be this like maximum amount that your transaction is ever going to be charged. Because that's, you can think of it as sort of like a credit limit in a way, where you're saying, I only want to be charged up to this amount. And it's only under very specific network conditions that your max fee is actually going to go into effect. However, setting your max fee less, or setting it incorrectly, I should say, can reduce your transaction performance and readability, which is therefore going to cause a lot of transaction anxiety. And that's because base fee underpayment is going to be your biggest risk for any kind of stuck or drop transactions. So base fee is the minimum price set for inclusion in the next block, right? So let's say that base fee is 50 right now, and you're like, great, I'm going to price my transaction to 50, meaning I'm going to set my max fee to 50 because I don't want to pay any more than 50 gwei. That's what the base fee is. That's as much as I'm willing to pay. But before your transaction can get included in the next block, the base fee rises to 55. So your transaction is now underpriced and is no longer a candidate for inclusion. So there's no way your transaction can get into a block until the base fee comes back down to 50, which is what you set it as. Right, so here's an example of a popular Web3 wallet and what it will look like as you try to set your own max fee. Now, most wallets will already provide you with recommendations for gas, but if those recommendations aren't based on any kind of real-time mempool data, you could be undergassing users' transactions, which, as we said, during periods of high congestion on the network could lead to a lot of transaction anxiety. Similarly, if you're a dApp and your users are transacting, and if their transactions get stalled because of poor gas estimates from a wallet, right? Are they going to blame the wallet or the dApp? 9 times out of 10, probably going to be frustrated with the dApp, right? So dApps could also consider providing any accurate fee estimations. So if users, so users can input those recommendations into their wallets instead of just relying on the wallet estimates. Okay, so we talked about the dangers of base fee underpayment. How do we combat that? So what you're going to want to do is set a max fee that has a safety factor in it that basically can account for, hey, what happens if the base fee goes up, right? One common heuristic for this is to set your max fee to twice the current base fee plus your priority fee. And the idea behind that is if the base fee doubles, you're covered for at least the next 6 blocks, because at a maximum rate of increase, base fee will, within 6 blocks, the maximum that it can do is double, right? However, like I said, super disorienting for the user, because now by doubling your max fee, your transaction looks like it's going to be super expensive. And then the transaction gets on chain. You don't actually hit your full max fee, but nobody's, running around shouting, yeah, we saved money on our fees. We didn't hit our maximum, right? It just, you see what you send, and then it looks expensive. Now, that's because this heuristic is based on a worst case scenario of maximum network congestion and not on what's actually happening in the mempool in real time, right? At Blocknative, our gas estimator is actually able to produce what we call intelligent max fees. And those are based on real-time mempool data, machine learning, and future base fee predictions. And those intelligent max fees are actually able to demonstrate a 16% average reduction in max fee from this naive approach, while still being marketable after 5 blocks 99% of the time. Right, so the good news with the EIP 1559 is it has variable block sizes, right? So the network can adapt. It's easier to estimate what's going to happen because it's not supposed to move as much, right? It's algorithmic. And we have this deflationary pressure on the network. There's also some other benefits that we've witnessed. So in EIP 1559 transactions, also known as type 2 transactions, they actually tend to cost less. So if you're submitting a transaction that's type 0 or the legacy transactions, right, under the old model. On average, those transactions are going to end up paying 14% more. Now, do users care about overpaying for gas, right? Of course, absolutely, 100% take care. So we highly encourage, whether you're building, whatever you're building, that it's EIP 1559 compliant, so that your users don't end up having to overpay unnecessarily. Another unexpected side effect of EIP 1559 transactions, right, these type 2 transactions, is they tend to go on-chain faster than the type 0 transactions. It's only slightly faster, but if you're a trader or you're working with traders that care about speed, that's going to matter. However, EIP 1559 isn't all sunshine and rainbows, right? It's a more complex gas model that can often confuse people, especially if you're new to Web3. And in the wild, a lot of these new factors interplay with each other in these really interesting ways that, spoiler alert, still make PGAs a thing. So let's look at some real-time data, or real-world data, I should say. So this is an NFT launch. It's the AO Art Ball. It launched in January of this year. And when we look at the launch on chain, here's what the base fees did during that launch, right? So the NFT launches, everyone's super excited, sending their transactions into the network, and we can see the base fee is going up, and we have blocks at that 12.5% rate, 100% full, going up, 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 up. And then it goes all the way up to, I believe that's 1200 Gwei, kind of tabletops very briefly for a bit, and then comes down very smoothly, very algorithmic, very predictable, right? Remember, EIP 1559, we have 2 factors that you have to include: your base fee and your priority fee. So let's see what the priority fee is doing at the same time. Very interesting, right? So basically, we see this huge surge in the minimum. So this is minimum priority, the minimum priority needed to be in that block, right? And these jump up to, let's 800 Gwei as the NFT launch goes live, right? So this massive spike. And then by overlaying these two, look at this, the base fee, well, the base fee is low, priority fee goes up high, right? And then as the base fee increases, priority fee tends to decrease, right? So they're interacting with each other. And there's actually an algorithm at play here, right? The algorithm of EIP 1559. And then there's the psychology, right, of the traders who are trying to participate in this NFT drop. And when we combine them, it actually kind of looks like this, right? So this was the actual network during this drop. And if we just combine the 2 colors, what does this look like, right? It's the exact same tabletop that we had before. Rapid rise, flat across the top, and then it declines just like a PGA. Just like the PGAs that we had under the first price gas auction model. So even under EIP 1559, priority gas auctions are still a thing. They just have more variables. They're less likely to occur, but we still have to pay attention to what's going on with the network. You have to be aware that there's going to be sometimes these sudden changes to conditions, and that the psychology and the algorithms in these conditions interact in ways that aren't always super obvious. So when it comes to predicting and something like gas fees, right, it's easy to predict the algorithm. It's really hard to predict the psychology of what's going to happen. And then obviously these gas spikes affect the entire ecosystem, not just those that are participating in the NFT drop. And that makes it really difficult to determine an appropriate max fee for everybody else that's trying to transact on the network. So as we look ahead, let's see what might be changing with gas fees now that the merge is passed. All right, so mainnet merged with Beacon Chain earlier this month. It was really exciting time. We had our first masterclass the day after, I remember very vividly. And with it, almost nothing changed, right? Dynamic block sizing still the thing. We still have base fee, priority fee, which is now validator tip, and then max fee. Nothing really changes, except for miners are no longer a thing. So now validators are receiving that priority fee. However, one important change to pay attention to during this time is one important change to pay attention to, right, is fixed block times. So under the old proof of work system, you had variable block times, and the network targeted about 13.5 seconds per block on average, but we all know that a block could be confirmed anywhere from like 1 to 60 seconds. There was actually no way of knowing exactly when a block was going to be confirmed. Completely unknowable. And so therefore, if you're trying to get into the next block, you didn't know when that block was going to happen, and every millisecond was equally as valuable to the next millisecond, right? Because everyone was trying to get into the next block, but nobody knew when that was going to be confirmed. Which means everybody competed equally through a consistent time horizon, and that time was basically flat and it was linear, and transactions flowed in and out of the mempool at any time because of this. But there was a subtle change that came with the merge. Under proof of stake, now blocks are confirmed every 12 seconds like clockwork. What does that mean? So now, because of this, not all milliseconds are equal to every other millisecond in a block now, right? This means if I'm going to get something on chain and I want to make sure I get in and someone doesn't beat me to it, or front run my opportunity, when I'm going to submit my transaction, I'm probably going to want to submit it in the first, not in the first few seconds of a block, right? But like at the final 1 or 2 seconds, right? Second 11 or second 11.5. So when I submit this transaction, right, all my I want to submit it as close as possible to that end of the block, so that all my competitors out there have a smaller time window to respond to what they see. And what's significant here is that this will it does impact intra-block transaction velocity, and under proof of work, there was consistent velocity where all milliseconds were equal, right? And now, since the merge has happened, we have these fixed block times. And we were pre-merge. One thing that we were expecting come to merge was this surge effect, where the second or two before a block is confirmed, we're going to see more transactions flood into the mempool, and there'll be these tighter time horizons for various automated systems to compete with each other. And this huge rush to lower and lower latency infrastructure in order to detect and respond to those last second opportunities. And this is absolutely something we are in fact seeing today, and it's really interesting. Now, we believe that this will eventually have an impact on gas fees as the nature of these transactions going in and out of the mempool changes. There hasn't been any significant impact at this time post-merge, but there's still a lot of research going into this, especially here at Blocknative. And we're really looking into how this behavior will affect gas fees long-term.
This was an amazing overview, Julio. I have a couple questions that I would love to ask. Obviously, gas is complicated, which is why we did this entire thing. And you showed an equation. If I'm a user, I don't want to use that equation every single time. And are there tools that I can use? And really, what is that most important factor in determining if I'm in that next block?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me pull up a really cool web page. So this is Blocknative's web page for our gas estimator, right? Most people, when they first take a deep dive into Web3 and they're looking for gas, this will be the first thing that they run into. Now, this is a really great resource because we'll see base fee clear as day right up here. And then what's really important though is we'll tell you exactly what you need to set your priority fee or your max fee in order to be included in the next block. So you can see down here, we have different probabilities. If you're looking to get in the block really quickly, I want a 99% probability that I will be in this next block. This is what we recommend you set your fees to. Versus if you're cool waiting, maybe, if you don't get into the next block, it's fine. Maybe the next 2 or 3, right, is what you're aiming at. you can go with a 70% probability, right? So this is 70% probable that I'm going to be in the next block, but you still have that max fee that's high enough. So you have that protection to ensure that you're still able to get in within the next few blocks.
This is awesome. And I know when you showed the graph of the NFT launch and I saw, a base fee going up, is there a way to see, hey, like what's the history? Like, where are we at in the gas fees? How can I look at that easily?
Yeah, great question. So one of the other things that we offer on this page is real-time gas price charts. And I love this chart because you can really monitor it during an NFT launch and see how that psychology and algorithm play with each other, because this is on a block by block basis. But you can also look at this and say, let's say you're looking at the gas fees and you see, hey, priority fees are like super high right now. What's going on, right? You can look at the state of gas, the current state of the network, and see priority fees rising. And then you can see the base fees soon after that, right? Just like we discussed, starting to algorithmically go up right after that. And then make the decision, maybe I should probably wait, or I need to get this on chain now. So let me look at these estimates and make sure I put those in.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for showing me that. And then is there another graph that we can see? I think there's another graph, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So we also have the average gas price heat map, right? So if I'm looking to do some trades and they are not time sensitive, right? A lot of people will use this heat map to look at when throughout the day are gas prices typically going to be the lowest, right? So you're going to see there's certain times in here where there's just not much congestion on the network, and that's going to be on this weekly basis, right? We can see there's certain times when there are a lot of people on the network. Maybe most people in the world are awake and using Ethereum, versus times when there's a lot of people sleeping and not a whole lot of network congestion.
Okay, this is cool. So if I want to make a transaction, I want to have the lowest gas fee possible. Do I need to have this open all the time to be like, okay, when is it going to be 5? I know it'll be at maybe 22 hours. Do I have to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. You need to be glued to the screen at all times. No. So there are a couple of different ways that people have used us, right? So some people will keep this tab open and just leave it in the in their window and kind of periodically take a look at that, but that's a lot of work. Alternatively, we do have browser extensions. So we have them for Chrome, Firefox, and Brave. And I have an example right here of what that looks like. So you can see in my browser extension, it's always giving me what the current base fee is, which is really great because I can kind of just peep up at it and see if the network is congested, or if base fees have gone severely down. I'm like, oh, I should probably buy something real quick, right? What's also great about this is if you have an account, you can actually set up alerts. So you don't even have to be looking at it. If you don't have an account, completely free to sign up. Highly recommend it. All you do is go into options. And then right here, you can enable notifications, right? So send me an alert if base fee is below, let's say I don't want to transact unless it's below like 15 Gwei. I can go ahead and set that. And then as soon as it hits that threshold, I'll get my alert. Now, you can also do above, below, or set alerts based on max fee or priority fee, but most people are going to be using the space fee option.
Oh, that's awesome. And I know, Julio, there's different gas estimators out there. What should I be looking for and evaluating when I look at gas estimators?
I would say one of the top things to make sure you look at is how are those gas estimators predicting, how are they getting their estimates, right? A lot of gas estimators might be using stale data. They might be using data based off of what the previous block was doing. I would recommend if accuracy is really important to you and you care about making sure that you are getting transactions into the next block, you look at getting gas estimates for something that is using real-time mempool data, right? So at Blocknative, these gas estimates are based off of real-time mempool data. So if we see a large rush of transactions go in and they have really high priority fees, if you're just looking at what happened in the last block, you're going to give a bad estimate for what the priority fee needs to be. Versus if you're looking at what's happening real time in the mempool, I'll see, hey, to compete with these addresses, these transactions that have these really high priority fees, this is what you need to set your priority fee at in order to be included in the next block.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, last question for you. If I'm a trader or a builder and I want more advanced options and strategies, there's something for me.
Absolutely. So if you're a high frequency trader, or maybe you're creating some trading bots, or you're a dApp or a wallet, right? We talked about those providing gas estimates for your users. You can't just direct them to go into some, someone else's UI or some other page, right? You're going to want to incorporate that real-time data into whatever you're building. We do offer gas API to anybody, completely free. And here we can see I'm on Mempool Explorer right now, and that's just to show you the different payloads, what the payload looks like for that API. So if you have any of your subscriptions that we showed you how to do in the last class, right, you can just go up here on the right. There's an option for you to turn on the gas feed. You can see they're giving me quite the update, right? So you can see this really rich payload right here. It's going to have all of the relevant information that you had on that UI, plus some really, really interesting extra information. So we also offer future block gas predictions. So up to the next 5 blocks, we'll give you what we predict the base fee will be in those blocks.
Amazing. Thank you, Julio. And with that, we'll conclude our session unless you have anything else to say, Julio or Emily. No. Awesome. So for me, what gas really shows me is just like your gas gauge in your car, it's a critical instrument. And so is our suite of gas estimation tools when you're transacting on the blockchain. So we'll be sharing out the deck, the recording, follow-up questions, and additional material through Mempool Masterclass on Discord. And you can also check out our comprehensive docs as well. Since our entire team's on Discord, you'll be able to get all your additional questions answered there. So please join us, and we're happy to continue the conversation. And as a reminder, next week, in 2 weeks, we're going to have our final class of the Mempool Masterclass series, which will be on simulating transactions. So that will build off of the last 2 sessions, and it will be the most detailed and most advanced. So we're excited for that, and your instructors will be Julio and Blair. So looking forward to that. We'll see you all in 2 weeks, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.